Welcome to the Connected Spirit Podcast, a space where the mystical and the human experience merge, where we explore what it really means to walk a spirit-led path. I'm Courtney Dawson, an ethical medium and mentor, and for as long as I can remember, I have felt the presence of the spirit world. But my journey hasn't been simple. It's been one of self-discovery, healing from religious and emotional trauma, navigating fear, judgment, and the loneliness that comes with embracing something the world doesn't always understand. This podcast is here to take what was once considered woo and bring it into the real lived experience of being human. Because mediumship isn't just something we do, it's who we are. Here we dive into the conversations no one else is having, breaking down misconceptions, exploring the unseen, and normalizing the journey of deep connection. We'll talk about the beauty and the struggle of being a medium. We'll laugh, we'll reflect, we'll go deep. And most importantly, we'll remember who we are, why we're here, and how spirit moves through us all. So if you've ever felt something more, if you've ever questioned the unseen, or if you're simply ready to embrace the fullness of your spiritual path, you're in the right place. Hello, beautiful soul. Welcome back to the Connected Spirit Podcast. Today, we have an amazing, beautiful, ethical light worker who is serving the world of spirit with an integrity. And I want to introduce you to Virginia Belliveau, who is a professional psychic medium, mentor, and certified Reiki practitioner from Austin, Texas. After experiencing a synchronous awakening at age 33, Virginia is passionate about sharing her knowledge and wisdom from spirit in really a digestible and real way, as well as sharing her life experiences with others to lend them the courage to share their own. She's trained under celebrity medium Cindy Kaza, known for her work on the Travel Channel's The Dead Files, The Holzer Files, and The Ghost of Devil's Perch, as well as training with professional medium Natalie Lucia. Virginia is currently working with Cindy in her 6-month advanced mediumship mentorship. Virginia believes mediumship is for everybody and encourages everyone to develop their own relationship with the spirit world. Virginia, welcome to the show, darling.
Hi, Courtney. Thanks for having me.
I'm really stoked to have you on the show because I've followed you for a little while now, and there's something different about the way that you show up online. It's not scripted, it's not polished, it is just unapologetically you. And it's like this breath of fresh air. You know what I mean? It's like you're not trying to be seen or noticed for a fancy hook or, the aesthetics as far as like when people spend all this time on making sure their carousels look a certain way. You're like, this
Yeah.
is who I am. Love it, leave it, bless you,
Yeah.
all that good stuff. And so I watch your stuff and I'm like, dang, I love this so much. And then we've connected and here we are doing this exchange. So before we kind of like talk about your gifts or your work with spirit, who was Virginia before all of this? What was life
Yeah.
like before things really started shifting for you?
Yeah. So I was a hairstylist for many, many years, 17 years to be exact. I still have my license, but was always working in a salon setting. I was a cosmetology instructor for a while, teaching at beauty schools, which was really fun, but just had a really nice, long, professional, beautiful career. I became a mom. My life was unfolding according to plan. And it definitely pivoted at a certain point in a direction that I did not see coming. But now that I am where I am, it's easy for me to reflect back and see the different points where my abilities were present. And I just didn't know it yet.
It's interesting because lots of people are like, I have this one moment, and that's when my mediumship abilities or my psychic intuitive gifts come online. But yet, if you take a moment, you can actually see the little signposts along the way, and you go, wow, these really are an actual part of me.
Yeah. I had a lot of them.
It's interesting, right? Because some of us will come from different backgrounds, but maybe we don't have the language or the support or the resources to really kind of understand these abilities until maybe we're a
Same.
little bit older in life. You've shared a lot about your life online, like really transparently. And, you were talking about like by age 20 that you'd already been experiencing some of the unexplainable, like apparitions. You had
Yeah.
objects moving, there's voices and all of that. What was it like to hold that alone for so long?
It was really scary. And I didn't understand it, because like you just mentioned, I didn't feel like I had the support or the tools or the guidance for someone to say, hey, this is actually what's happening. It's okay to learn about this part of yourself. I didn't know that. I came from a very religious background. I grew up in the Mormon faith, the mainstream Mormon faith. I just was always taught that anything like divination tools or Ouija boards or anything that was not of God, like, I don't know, you just don't go there. You don't go into it with curiosity. You don't go off on your own trying to figure it out. Like, you just stay away from it. And it was confusing to me because a lot of the experiences that I had had were sentient experiences where I actually felt love, felt peace, felt comfort. But it was very confusing to me. It was very confusing to be like, don't try to understand that. But some of it, I'm going to say some of it because some of it was scary to me, but some of it wasn't. And so it was hard for me to understand a world where that could coexist and that I could be safely exploring it.
And that's a really common experience that you have. So many people that have come from a faith background, a religious background, and so many different doctrines will talk about, no, you can't go there. You can't do any kind of sorcery, wizardry, mediumship, go see seers. But yet people like you and I have these really real experiences. Some of them can be
Yeah.
scary, but not all of them.
Yeah.
Did you ever feel like it
Right.
was too much, or like you were making these things up, or like something was wrong with you when you were having these experiences?
No. I mean,
Hey.
not that something was wrong with me, but it was more like, why me? Like, why am I experiencing these things, but everyone else in my family isn't? Or why am I 20 years old and having these paranormal things happen to me, but none of my friends have had these experiences? It didn't make sense to me, but I never denied them. I couldn't because I knew they were real. I knew they had happened. I don't know, but they just caught me off guard more than anything else. Like, I had no control over when it would happen, how it would show up, how often, because it could be years before I would have another experience or be aware of what was going on. And just the whole thing was kind of like, huh, that's interesting.
Things that make you go, hmm.
Yeah.
Take us to that moment, November 2022, when that anxiety and the fear around death really cracked something open in you. What did that season feel like for you in your body? Because that's a lot when you
It
go
was
through
a
something
lot.
like that.
It was super dark. I'll say that. Like, I'll preface it with I had been going through a lot of changes over the last couple years leading up to that point. I became a mother. So my salon closed down. My little boy's daycare shut down for a year. And so I actually stayed home with him, for the first time in so many years. I wasn't working. I wasn't going to work every day. And this is really where the awakening started happening because I had to question, who am I? Like, who really am I without this title or without this skill set of what I can do? Right. So that had kind of been happening in the background. And then my family was on vacation. This is probably like August. And I learned that my ex fiance, who at that point, I think it had probably been like 8 or 9 years since we had broken up. So it had been quite a bit of time. But I had found out that he passed unexpectedly. And it just shook me. After his passing, I started having panic attacks. I started being terrified of the thought, like, I was thinking anybody could die at any minute and I would have no control over it. Like, my husband could leave and go to work and never come home, and I really started living that way, like thinking that way. And it was based on a couple things. Like, I wanted to know where my ex was because he hurt a lot of people when he was here. We didn't end on great terms. He hurt a lot of people and kind of did a lot of people wrong when he was here. And so I was afraid for his soul. I'm like, is he in heaven? Did he go to spirit? Like, where is he? What happened to him? And how can you just be here 1 minute and then like gone, So like I said, this started to kind of manifest as like panic attacks and things like that. And it also really sent me down this rabbit hole with my faith because I was raised Mormon. But probably by the time I was like 17, 18 years old, I had really stepped back from that. I wasn't going to church anymore. I wasn't considered, like they would call it, an active member of the church. I kind of just like went off and did my own thing. It was always there. I just wasn't like addressing my belief system. And when he passed, it was like, okay, I have to address this. What do I believe? Because whatever they taught me, like, I don't resonate with that. Like, I don't believe in their version of the spirit world. I just didn't believe it. It didn't align with me. I had this moment that happened over the course of, I'm trying to think, 2022.
Yeah.
Like, when was that? I think I know exactly what moment you're talking about. So yeah, this is kind of all leading up to that point, I guess. It's a whole little story, and I hope that's okay that I'm going into it. But,
Absolutely. Yeah.
okay. Beautiful. So it really begged the question, like, what happened to him? What do I believe in? Where am I going to get these answers from? And I started hearing internally, like, those experiences you've had, they mean something. And if you can learn about those, it's going to teach you about what you believe. So I started like reading tons of spiritual books about different ideas, kind of introducing these different thoughts and beliefs about, spirituality. Or after I read a lot of books about like NDEs, I did get like a life coach that specialized in faith deconstruction, because I was like, maybe if I start here in this healing process, it will help me better understand everything about after. And I remember I had this moment with her, Courtney. I said to her one day in a session, I said, do you believe in, like the other side? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, have you ever had anything happen to you, like unexplained experiences or like paranormal experiences? And she was like, actually, I have. And I was like, can you tell me about it? And she shared this beautiful thing that happened with her where a loved one visited her in a dream. And it was very real. And she could feel them and feel their love. And they talked. And she was crying when she was telling it to me. So I knew she believed in what she was saying. And I said, can I share with you some things I've experienced? And she was like, sure. And I just left that session that day and I said, I don't know what this means, but I feel like I need to learn more about what's happened to me. I think that this is like part of the puzzle. And I think in that moment when I was able to share with her and just be really open about what I had experienced, I hadn't really done that before. It was really like the first time I was able to be open with someone who I felt in that moment could understand me. She was also an ex-Mormon, so I felt like we had a lot in common.
Wow.
I really felt seen and understood. And so after I had met with her, I found this group online. It was led by two professional psychic mediums, and they offered a membership where you could just come and learn about your intuition. We learned about spirit guides. We learned about the clairs, how to protect your energy. And this is where I really started to play with feelings in a safe environment where I could really open up and discover, and I felt safe doing it, because I still had that fear there. I eventually decided to become like Reiki certified. So that's where this journey kind of took me, is I became like a Reiki practitioner. And that was, I would say, a pivotal turning point, because once I started doing Reiki on people and I could really feel energy, I could feel it like moving through people. I saw how people like got on the table and they were different when they left. I started getting more than just whatever I was doing was more than just Reiki, because I was getting messages about people's lives. I could see their trauma. I could feel it in their body. I don't know. It's like almost like their body would talk to me. And I'm like, I think this is more than just Reiki. Like, I think I'm getting like psychic messages. I remember one time I was like hovering over someone's heart chakra and I saw her and her mom fighting, and it was over like a piece of jewelry. And I'm like, how do we know this? And so after that, I was kind of like, I think I'm psychic, but I wonder if there's more to this. Like, I wonder if there's more that I can do that I just don't know yet. And I started doing Reiki out of my home. I had a Reiki room in my home, and that's where I would see clients. I started reading oracle cards. Shout out to like Buy Nothing groups. We have these groups here called Buy Nothing, and they're in different neighborhoods and everything on it's free. So I'm like, I'm just going to make a post in there and see if anyone wants an oracle card reading. And so I had made a post and I was like, I'm doing oracle card readings. I'm trying to practice strengthening my intuition. I'm trying to play with it. If you want a free reading, come to my house, between this time and this time. I had 50 people sign up. For like 2 weeks straight, I just had people coming to my house, sitting at my dining room table and doing a reading, and they would leave. And I had this woman come one day. This is leading up to November 2022. So this is that time. I had a woman come one day for her oracle card reading. And I was in the middle of the reading, and a dime materialized, fell through my dining room table, and it swirled around and landed by my foot. And we were like, what? Like, that was crazy. And I pick it up and I'm like looking at her and I'm like, you saw that, right? Like, look, it's right here. And she was like, she was really scared. I mean, I could see the fear in her face. Like, and I'm like, this mean something? Do you know what this means? She was like, no. And I was like, you don't have dimes as like a sign for anyone? And she was like, no, my mom is cardinals. My dad is this. I'm like, okay. I was like, well, take this home. And if you think about it, let me know. Cause I don't know why dimes are just dropping into my dining room for no reason. Like, that doesn't happen every day. I knew it was
No,
something really important,
oh, that's crazy. That's physical phenomena. That's an apport. That is
It was.
wild.
Yeah, it was wild. I could tell she was kind of scared when she left my house that day. And I was like, I really hope she puts it together and lets me know. Because I felt strongly that it was like a really big clue to something. And so the next day, I had my next reading coming. And I sat down and I did her reading. It was beautiful. And she's packing up her stuff, getting ready to go. And she starts crying. And she said, thank you for this reading. I've been having a really hard time ever since my mom passed away. And when she said that, Courtney, it was like, I could feel this feeling like standing next to my body, outside of my body. It was like from the top of my head to like the tips of my toes. It felt electric. It was buzzy. It felt like somebody just kind of like plugged me into something, but it was very strong. And I was having a really hard time concentrating on her. It was like all encompassing. I just started talking to her. I'm like, oh, I'm really sorry to hear about your mom. That's, I know that can be hard. And I said, I don't know what you believe in, but I think that you should start having a conversation with your mom, or talk to your mom rather, and maybe you can establish like a sign for her. And she was like, oh, yeah, I talk to my mom all the time. We have a sign. And I was like, oh, okay. And all the meanwhile, I can still feel this feeling next to me. And I was like, what's your sign for your mom? And she says, it's dimes. I said, did your mom die in 2021, which was the date on the dime? And she said, yeah. I think it might have been 2019. I'm trying to I don't know. I think it might have been 2019, actually. I said, did she pass in 2019? She said, yes. And I just lost it because I knew that's the moment. That's the moment. Everything changed. The mom was so strong next to me in that moment when we had pieced everything all together. Like, I felt like I wasn't even in my body. It was that powerful. And then I have to explain to this girl, I'm like, okay, I don't know if you understand this or if this makes sense to you, but I think your mom's here. I think I'm a medium. And your mom brought a dime to my house yesterday. I had to tell her everything. She was really open to it. She was really open to all of it. She was like, I believe it, and I said, I'm so sorry. The dime's at someone else's house. And she was like, it's okay. She was like, yeah, my mom leaves dimes for me everywhere. I'm like, wow. Okay. So she leaves my house that day and the mom stays with me and I can feel the mom and she's so strong. My husband was mowing the lawn and I went out to the front yard and I was like, babe, remember the dime? And he was like, yeah. And I told him the whole thing. And I was like, the mom's right here. Like, what do I do? And he was like, get her the dime back. And I was like, oh yeah, okay. Because I'm out of my body.
For sure.
I'm like, what? So I go back in my house. I can feel the mom following me. I go back in the house, go to my phone, text the other lady, like, hey, I'm going to need this dime back. The minute I hit send, the mom was gone. She was gone. I couldn't feel her anymore. She wasn't there. It's like, that's what she wanted. She was like, I need to make sure she gets that dime. The probably like 2-3 weeks following that instance were very overwhelming for me because my brain was like I just could not realistically, I was denying it. I was like, that didn't really happen. I'm making it up. But I had all the proof. I had the dime. I had the neighbor witness it. The date on the dime. Like, how do you deny that? I couldn't deny any of it. And it just all matched up. And so that membership I was on with the intuitive development, I went to one of the mediums and I was like, this happened to me. Like, is this mediumship? And she was like, yeah, you're a medium. I'm like, oh my God. So I was kind of freaking out because, my whole life I always thought, well, only special people can do this. This isn't something I could do. I guess my ideas of what I thought mediumship actually was.
Mhm.
And that was the hardest part for me to wrap my head around. It's like, how can I do this? How is this possible? And why is it just now happening? But I followed the breadcrumbs and that's where it took me to that very moment. And that's when everything changed. My entire life changed. I was never the same ever again. I knew without a shadow of a doubt, like there wasn't even this moment where it was like, should I, shouldn't I? I was like, oh, I'm a medium. I'm doing this. I'm doing this. I
And-
am using
you
it
have-
for good. I am helping people. I'm going to change this world. I'm going to bring messages to people that need it so much. And I've been on this mission ever since. I haven't stopped and I won't. I really feel like I'm meant to do this. I do feel passionate about that.
It's that saying, many are called, few are chosen.
Yeah.
And it's not an easy road. I honestly think that, I could be wrong, but this is kind of how I feel. What rational person wakes up one day and says, I want to talk to dead people?
Right.
I want to have these paranormal experiences. I want to feel alone and have no support and people look at me like I'm crazy. Like, we don't do that. But yet, if you look back along your path, it's like it was always there, but then there's that catalyst that really cracks you wide open. And once you've been touched by the power and the presence of the spirit, Virginia, you can't go back.
You can't.
You can't. So how did you go from this like seeker and taking classes and learning to now being a space holder for people that are grieving, that
Yeah.
questions about life after death? How do you do that? What was that like for you, making that transition and then going into doing this professionally?
Yeah. In some ways, it was easy because I kind of was already doing it. Like I had been a hairstylist for so long. You are a space holder if you are in any profession where you are giving your time and your energy and expertise to another person. And they're sitting with your skill and what you can do and your energy, be it a nurse, a tattoo artist, a hairstylist, whatever. And I was used to people crying in my chair. They come get their hair done for funerals, they have a miscarriage. I mean, that's like normal for a hairstylist. You're seeing people every, 4, 6, 8 weeks of their whole life. So yeah, especially if you've been doing it with the same people for a long time, like you are kind of used to doing that and conversating with them and they share with you their vulnerabilities. So that part for me was kind of easy. Like I was like, this is familiar to me. I'm used to this. And I know that it can be really uncomfortable for people who have never done that before. But for me, it was like, let it out. It's okay. Like you can cry in front of me. You can talk about it. There were parts that were not easy for me. I would say boundaries, like learning how to have boundaries with the spirit world, learning to fast. I want to talk about that for sure. Because Courtney, I was like, after that moment with the dime, I was so excited about what I had just learned that I was all in. Like, it was like I just jumped off a cliff into a whole new world and I wanted to learn everything about it as fast as I could. And that kind of backfired in a way at some points because I had like imposter syndrome. I was having a really hard time incorporating it into my reality, like this new reality of knowing this, and then like my human life. Disassociation, like, is this real? Like, actually having some level of psychological struggle with it. And so if anyone out there is listening to this that is developing and they're in the beginning of their journey, like, slow down. It's okay. It's a journey and you have all the time. You have the time. So I wish that I maybe would have done that a little bit different, but I obviously can't change that. But I do think that it also has strengthened me as a medium. I think that I was looking back on my calendar. There were some weeks I was doing like 18 readings in a week. But I was so excited. I was like, with every time I do this, I'm learning something about myself, my ability, how I work with spirit, how the spirit world works. Like, it was so fascinating to me. My life looks totally different than that now. It's not really like that anymore. It cost me time away from my family. I wasn't very present. I was exhausted, especially in the beginning of development. Like, you're using a muscle you haven't used before. So you get drained, you're tired. It would take me out the rest of the day. I was so tired because I was using my energy. I don't know. I wouldn't say that I did everything the right way or the way that I would recommend. But I do think that it kind of catapulted me to a place where I felt more confident in what I was doing and what I was delivering. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Because I think we can have these experiences like 18 readings is a lot. I mean, there was
I
weeks I
know.
was doing 15 a week, that's 60 a month. And then I wonder why I would crash and burn, get sick, and literally have burnout where
Yeah,
I couldn't function. My whole brain went offline. And it's
yeah,
because we want to serve so much. We want to help. We want to heal. We want to be of service, but yet we're doing that through this physical vessel. And so I share some of those experiences, actually a lot, with my students. So maybe they don't have to go through the fire and brimstone like I did, that rite of
exactly.
passage. You don't have to do that. Slow and steady is so, so important, especially when we're developing in those early stages. Because if we don't, it actually has a detrimental effect on our nervous system. So you're doing the work, you're serving spirit. And then where did that calling to start sharing with others through teaching come up? Because that's a completely different ballpark when you're working with spirit.
So I kind of mentioned before that I have a little bit of a teaching background because I was a
Mhm.
cosmetology instructor, and that's not just like showing someone how to do a haircut. Like, I'm teaching in a classroom setting, I'm doing lesson plans, I'm learning about everyone's different learning styles so that they can obtain the information that I'm teaching. So I did that for like 5 or 6 years with teaching and all the while working in a salon. But I think the teaching aspect of me never really left. Like, I've always kind of been a teacher in my own way, no matter what I was doing. And I love it. Like, I really, really love it. And so one of my colleagues had invited me to teach a beginner's mediumship course with her. And I was kind of flattered, like, me? She was like, yes, like, you can do this. You're great. And I'm going to be in there with you. And she kind of showed me the ropes to teaching, what that felt like. And it felt really good. And so she kind of gave me that little nudge. Like, once I knew I could do it, I was like, I want to do more of this. It's awesome. It's very rewarding to, it's like I see myself and other people. People have so many questions and they're so curious and they're confused. And I'm like, I've been there. I can help you with that. Like, I know what that feels like. So it feels nice to like give back in a way and help somebody who just feels a little lost with what's going on. Cause I know I certainly felt that for sure.
Absolutely. You're giving to them what you needed in those earlier days of your journey, too.
Uh,
Your practice is really multidimensional. So you do mediumship, you do Reiki, you're doing
mhm.
mentoring. You're also officiating sacred ceremonies. What's really anchoring you right now? Because you wear many hats and you're a wife and you're a mom.
I just trust spirit. I trust spirit. I would say like the two things that anchor me the most would be my family, like my husband, my son. I couldn't do any of this without them, you know, because I think sometimes when you're a medium, it's very easy to just have your foot in the spirit world and we
Yeah.
maybe don't take care of our human experience as much as we need to be. Man, I got to tell you, I was married 3 years before I discovered that I was a medium. And for a spouse that did not believe in any of this prior to that, he's watched my entire journey. I mean, everything. And he can't deny it. He's like, I'm a believer. Like, I know you're real. I know you are. And he's been such an amazing support for me. My son helps me also remember another really important purpose that I have here, to be his mom and to be a
Yeah.
beautiful part of our family. And so it's very important to me to make sure that I'm giving my time and attention to them too. And there were times in my development where maybe they didn't get as much as I should have been giving them. So that for sure. And then my faith. I have a really strong faith. It changed, I had to, especially when I was deconstructing my belief system, I had always had like a very strong connection to the spirit world. Mormons believe in the afterlife. They believe in life before we come here. And that was the part that always really resonated with me. Like, I chose to come here. I chose this life. I lived before I came here and we live forever. Like, that was something that always resonated with me so much. And then I did have a relationship with God. Now, it looks a little different than it did before. It's wider, it's got more perspective. It's broader than it was, but that never went away. And I do feel God in my mediumship. I don't really think you can separate them. At least I can't. So I trust in spirit. And when I say spirit, I mean God, I mean spirit, I mean angels, guides, our ancestors, our loved ones. They are with me in everything I do. Every single step of this journey has been me connecting to them, connecting to myself, making sure that everything aligns. And sometimes that means following a path that I don't see or understand yet. And I have to just be patient and knowing that it's going to come to be, you know?
Absolutely. It's not an easy path doing this work, serving spirit, because you can take the classes, read the books, do all the practice sessions, and learn the mechanics of mediumship. But then there's that personal development. And
Mhm.
I often feel from my own journey too, and I see this with my students in the school, is that mediumship is almost like a return to self or a remembrance of self and who you are outside of just this physical body, and your story of how you shared it really transparently and genuinely, Virginia, is really, it exemplifies that, because it's about, yes, I'm going through the journey of life and it's unpredictable. There's highs and lows. I can feel love and peace and joy and have that awareness and that inner knowing that there is the divine spirit that is there supporting me. I can let go. I can feel peace. I can get through this and do this and thrive, not just
Yeah.
survive. You're thriving, honey. And I love that. So
Yeah.
I think that's really going to resonate
Thank
with
you.
people, because it's like that high, it's almost addictive when you start developing, because it's like, oh
Totally.
my gosh, you start putting all the pieces together. But then it's like, okay, but I still have to have one foot in the physical world. I still have to be present. There's still that part of my soul that needs to learn outside of doing the work. Like, that's not easy. That's not easy at
It's
all.
not.
What would you say to somebody who's starting the development journey and they're in that state of almost like euphoria? They're like, "Oh my gosh, this is incredible." But yet they still have a family, they still have a job, they're still human. What would you say to them?
I would say make a sacred container, schedule that special sacred time so that you're not just wide open all the time, turned on all the time. Like, have your open and close sign on with spirit. And the times that you are going to be open and receptive, and the times that you are going to be focusing on your human earthly experience. because a lot of here is where the magic happens. And if you're out there and unplugged and constantly just tuning in, you're going to miss a lot of magical stuff, you know? So I would say really schedule that in. Like, okay, I'm going to wake up before my family does from, 6 to 7. I'm going to be meditating, connecting with my guides, just checking in, pulling a card for myself, whatever, prayer, whatever your routine is, whatever your thing is that you like to do to connect to spirit, just do that and have it be a little compass for your day or your week or your month, however often you do it. And then just like live your life and go do stuff with your friends and, have dinner together as a family and go run errands and enjoy everything here because we're supposed to be having fun. We're supposed to be enjoying this.
Absolutely. Can you tell our listeners what you have up and coming, where they can find you?
Yeah. So I am on Facebook, but more on Instagram. My Facebook is Virginia Belliveau Evidential Psychic Medium. My Instagram handle is at Morning Moon Medium. And that's where I would say I'm the most active. I don't do TikTok, although I'm thinking about opening one. I don't know. I have lots of things up and coming. So this month I am doing an online gallery reading. I'm keeping it really small. I'm only selling 6 tickets so that every single person can get a message from spirit. So that's kind of fun to watch other people get messages too. I'm doing that on September 28th. And then starting October 12th, I'm doing a beginner's mediumship course. This is for someone that's already started their mediumship journey, but is very much still a beginner. They know how to connect to spirit with a spirit link. They're familiar with their clairs, but they just feel kind of stuck in their development, or they're ready for a little more unfolding, deepening the evidence, getting beautiful, well-rounded messages and following those breadcrumbs and the evidence that comes through. So that starts October 12th and it's 4 weeks long. So it'll go till November 2nd. But yeah, that's mostly what I have happening right now.
Awesome. And everybody, you can get all of Virginia's contact info in the show notes below. Virginia, thank you so much, sweetheart, for being on the show, for just sharing your light, your wisdom, just so transparently. It's refreshing. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Courtney. I really enjoyed this.
The Connected Spirit isn't just a podcast, it's a remembering of who we are, a remembering of our connection to spirit, and a remembering that we are never walking this path alone. Mediumship isn't just about speaking with spirits. It's about deepening the connection to our own spirit, to one another, and to the energy that moves through everything. So as you leave this space, ask yourself, what part of this conversation stirred something within you? What connection is spirit inviting you to strengthen? If this episode spoke to you, please share it, leave a review, and connect with me on Instagram at Medium Courtney Dawson, or visit my website at mediumcourtneydawson.com. Your presence in this community matters because connection isn't just about what we seek, it's what we are. Until next time, trust your spirit, trust the unseen world, and trust that you are always, always connected.